LA area, the whole issue is commuting to try and get the shift starting and stopping when you can finally get there and get home.
In fact, in the valley, we've got 3 different schedules playing around, so we got the 4896s,
Oh,
the 3/4s, the
Every time we bring up shift schedules, they come off the walls.
The Chiefs do that.
Oh, yeah. We're not budging on ours.
Whenever anybody brings it up, everybody just goes, oh, God, not again.
1496 is, I like it, it just depends what you're doing.
Well, you guys always had the 8.
So I'm guessing
We've always
so.
had 3/4. So it was brought up a couple times. Just
One stack is a little bigger than the other, and
Majority.
And then he has a second job, so if we get up, it's because he got called away for the second job, so nothing for us. Just, that's why I'm like, we shouldn't be sitting up front.
3 of you right here. No, appreciate having me.
well, it's this guy flipped. There we are.
The 307.
307.
That's considerable. Are you retiring or?
No, I'm a fit now. Yeah, I worked as interim deputy for a while.
Oh, yes. All right, it's just about 10 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Take a second to do some introductions here. For those of you who don't know, I'm the president of the association, Paul Pauls.
Patrick Eichen, Chris Robertson.
David Darachuk.
Ken Palmer?
Very good. Paul Rubin, manager, PRM. Thank you.
Olivia Cardiel, office manager, PRM.
So it looks like we have a quorum with all 5 board members here. Let's move on to the next agenda item, approval of the previous board open minutes, which were from May 25th at 9 a.m. Excuse me, 10 a.m. I'm sure, has everyone had time to read these? Are there any edits or changes or corrections?
Nope.
Can I get a, nope.
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Do you guys only get to see the minutes from last meeting, or are they published?
There's copies up there.
Did you get them?
No, I have, no.
Oh, she
They
was
have
gonna
to
give
be
out copies
approved
until you
before-
approve them.
Ah,
Once they're approved. we
Once
don't
they're
face them
approved,
as a
then
change.
the
So-
membership can.
Okay, so a homeowner doesn't get to look at them to see if there was something that's on there that was not said or done or something. That's what I'm asking.
That's not normally been done, but I'm
I'm
not
just
saying
kinda
we can't.
curious as to why you guys approve them and then they're done and then nobody gets to look at them
So
first.
it's, all the minutes are is basically what happened in the last session, which was on the video, which you were here.
Right, I
So,
understand.
but nothing else is in there. And once we approve them, then they'll, they'll,
We have copies right here too, we can hand out. We brought them, but in case there were changes, we can
have
Thank
at
you.
it.
I was just curious, I was
Nope.
just asking.
can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. The first item under old business is an update on the non-com status. For those of you who don't know what was going on, the non-commercial was an association that was actually set up with the original setup of the homeowners association. They were done simultaneous by AAM, unbeknownst to the correct property owner of the non-com, which is part of the Cibola Vista Resort. Anyway, long and short of it is, they were not aware that AAM had taken over management and or filings for the non-com as well as the commercial. And that was going on for many years. Due to Ken contacting them, they were made aware that they were paying into this for all these years, but they didn't realize that they were not the registered agents. A small piece of property for the property owners, not a big piece on their radar screen. So they never even realized that they weren't filing with the city and actually with the state. That they
The corporate commission, right?
Right, with the
Yeah.
registered agents. So, long and short of it, there was over $100,000 in the account that we were collecting. Homeowners as well as the non-com owner was paying 30% in. We were paying 70% in. For those of you who have been following on video, when the management company was switched from AAM to PRM, AAM sent two checks, well, several checks, but one check for the non-commercial over to Paul Rubin saying, we can't cash this because we're not the association or the management company for them, and we have no right to them. Ken and Priscilla proceeded to find out that the owner, the original owner, was unaware that it was transferred over. Again, I'm still surprised that they were paying for so many years on something that they didn't realize that they were paying on. But that being said, there were original discussions with them to just take the balance and split it 70-30, which is the share that was being paid over the years into that account.
Could I say one thing? That we only located the original designated agent, and he got the gentleman he's talking about in touch with us and said, can we meet? We met on December 27th at the resort and just brought the parties together, primarily Paul Rubin and them, and said, okay, we have a problem, deal with it. My wife and I had no more contacts, none, phone, email, nothing. And so it was basically brought together. There have been discussions about should they have gotten the checks and should they have cashed them and whatnot. And now Paul is dealing with that whole problem. But all I want to say is that we only brought the parties together. We did not make a commitment. We had no right to make a commitment. There was nothing in writing, okay? And so now Paul's going to take it from here and explain where they went and where they are and all of that. Thank you.
After contacting them, I spoke with the management company, letting everyone know that I was going to call, and got the information that yes, they were paying. They weren't aware that they were no longer the registered agents. Again, not sure how you can go 8 years without filing it and not realize it, but again, a very small holding in their portfolio. So I can understand it slipping through the cracks. So rather than agreeing to just a straight up 70-30, I explained to them that the reserve that was put together was for the long-term care and maintenance of the parcel, the actual walking path that this covers. And by just splitting it 70-30 and then leaving the responsibility to fix that path, to bring it back up to its original status, would be a burden on us at the 70% because we'd split it 70-30 and we would in essence be paying the full maintenance to fix it. So I went back to them and using an engineering study that we had done, there were actually two, that had maintenance over years as well as planned maintenance in the year 2020. And depending on what you're looking at, it's anywhere from $18,000 to $40,000. Depending which engineering study. So unofficially, I went back to the owner of the parcel, the non-com, and I stated, well, why don't we take out that cost of repair from the reserve fund and then split the balance 70-30. This way, you're absorbing the cost for all that deterioration over the years that you were also involved. He agreed to that. He said, let me see your engineering studies and we'll take a look at it. He did come back and he stated, and I quote, rather than wait for the reserve study to be done in 2 years, because the reserve study said that in 2 years we should actually do the repair. So rather than waiting for 2 years to do the repair and then split the money, he's proposing that you use the current funds to do the repairs to the path. The path has deteriorated. It is going to need to come back. Given that they are a land developer, they felt that they could do the job bring it to its original status for much cheaper than the $40,000 that was in there. And
I hope so.
yeah, much cheaper than 40, but he wanted to have the opportunity to at least look at it and bid on it. I did not agree to anything because I wanted to bring it back to the board. I'm filling you in as to what the status is at this point. He's stating that he can do it cheaper, so if we use the funds to pay them to actually do the repairs, then we would take the balance, they would transfer, convey the title of Tract M to our association, so it would become ours going forward. It would just roll right into our regular commercial homeowners association. After the repairs, they would transfer it all over. Tract M would be like new, exactly his quote in his email. Like new, so there would be no skimping. We would have the right to say, we don't like what you did, or we think you skipped, or whatever. We would agree to what is being done before it is done. And then they would actually do the transfer of that title to our association. And the remaining funds would be split 70-30. Keeping in mind that there are going to be some legal fees that they're going to incur. And given that AAM took it upon themselves, there are a couple, and these guys, if you don't want to, it's up to you if you want to stand. AAM took it upon themselves when they were hired as the management company for the association. I'm not going to sit here and go through all the machinations with you, but suffice it to say that at that time there were 4 different associations, plus the non-com. They were all doing their own thing. They all came together. AAM was brought in to do that. Again, I can show you 100 emails that went back and forth. Whether it was a miscommunication on AAM's part, whether there was pure deception, which I don't believe there was. Either way, non-com is now a non-entity. Once they transfer that property over to us, it would be ours, and we're done. So, yes, please, I saw a hand up.
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah.
We used to pay, I think it was like $12. Do you anticipate then that our association fees would go up at $12, or will they just remain as they are?
We're in the process right now. I'm not gonna say that our association fees are never going up.
I understand.
It would not go up specifically due to the transfer of this property.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
You said we had to fix it?
it has to be fixed.
Maintenance.
It has to be brought back to like new.
Before it's transferred.
Yes,
I was gonna comment on the 1250. Normally, at the end of the year, the board has to set the assessment for the following year. I would propose as a board member that we ride through the rest of this year, and then we just do that as part of the review of the budget and everything. So
Yeah.
basically, the 1250 goes away for now, and when it comes up in 212, again next year, we could make it 200, or we can make it 220 or something. But that's how it would happen.
Once we own the property.
Yeah, once everything is consolidated.
And that's gonna be part of the entire budget process when we look at what's the cost of maintenance for everything. Keep in mind that you're looking at costs of, okay, let's say it is the max. Let's say it is the $38,000. Let's say that they come in and they say, wow, we didn't realize how deteriorated it was, although he made this proposal after observing it. But let's say it comes out, it is $40,000. That was $40,000 over, from like 2003, Ken?
No, the
2008,
trails were
2008.
rebuilt in January, February of 2016.
Well-
Now, whether they were brought up to snuff
Yeah.
is another issue.
No, I'm talking about when the association was set up for non-com, 2003?
It was 03, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there,
that
I don't
one.
know.
So you gotta realize, we've accumulated $100,000 in 15 years.
But that's in excess of some fees and
Right.
legal and insurance and everything. That
I
was
guess
the
what I'm trying to
excess.
go is, you don't have to worry about $12 going up every quarter,
Yeah.
because I think we're in excess, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
So the like new includes the dead brush and overgrowth and everything.
It's gonna be-
We're gonna talk about everything.
Well, and that's one of the things, after the non-com, or after AAM was let go, the landscape company that was doing the landscape stopped doing it, and the non-com owner was actually paying those fees out of their pocket, not out of our money. So it's been maintained to that extent. It's just the quality of the rock, any erosion that has happened to the actual walking path.
but we're referring to the brush because
overgrowth.
we're on 92nd Lane and we.
You back onto it? I mean,
Yeah.
they back onto you?
Yes, and so we have like so much dry brush right up to the fence that, you know, I'm concerned about fire hazards.
We've got landscaping.
Is that the thing we're gonna talk about?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is just for track down, just a trail, and
Just
there's
the
no
trail.
brush growing on that trail.
Yes, I'm sorry, you
Okay,
had something?
why are we gonna let AAM off the hook? For years,
Yeah.
they have paid, they charge us, what was it, $400 a month to landscape?
Yeah, it's 400.
A month to
350.
landscape, 350
350.
to landscape nothing, which we know they didn't do a charge, but. And then they also charge us management fee of
I don't know, what was the management fee?
$250 a month, so why are we gonna let them just off the hook? Cause, you know, your opinion of AM, my opinion of AM are totally different.
Absolutely.
So why are we letting them get away with all of our money?
What is our recourse?
Go after them. You're going after everybody else, why don't you go after AM?
Who are we going after?
I don't know.
Okay.
Are we going after a gentleman in my neighborhood that has 4-stage cancer?
No idea.
Huh?
Yep.
I talk to my neighbors, so.
I talked to mine as well, but okay, thank you.
So,
Going after
We're gonna
with
move on.
stage 4 cancer?
we're gonna move on.
Okay, we're moving on, so the proposal
It's
is,
transparency.
we're being very transparent. You know
We
this,
asked you a question.
Pam,
and I'm answering the question that we don't have any recourse to go back to a management company because they were hired to do exactly what they did. They had a contract to do exactly what they did, and we had a contract with the landscape company to do exactly what they
Who signed
did.
the contract? Who was responsible
Well, that,
for
over the course of 12 years, there's been a lot of them.
I think it was the president of the board,
I don't think there was.
yeah.
Well, okay, but anyway, I'm bringing it up to your attention so that everyone knows that we are in the process of wrapping this up. We're not gonna wait 2 years. We are going to have this probably resolved in the next 30 to 60 days. I'm going to make a proposal that we accept the proposal that was provided to us by Mr. Chomsky's representative. Mr. Chomsky is the rightful owner of that property, and allow them to give us a proposal for the, Peter Yachinsky was the gentleman who he is his property manager, if you will. And I'm going to make a motion that we accept their offer to bid to repair it. We analyze the scope of those repairs. We make sure that those repairs will bring it back up to quote-unquote like new. And then we accept the 70-30 split of the remaining funds.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay.
Done.
Done. Hopefully we'll get the cash in our accounts and we'll be done with this. I'm hoping by the end of the summer, by the end of September.
Can I just add, amen.
Okay, the archive update. There is no real update on this as yet. I have come in possession from AAM of a second mysterious disc that showed up that they said they had provided in the past, which surprisingly has all of the non-com information on it. So I am in the process of disseminating what's on there. There was an archive committee in the past, and I want this on camera and so on. There is information contained in those archive documents. There is information on those discs that non-board members should not have access to. There are fines, there are notices of legal issues, there are financial statements, there's people that were having financial difficulty, communications with AAM. There's a lot of information on there that is not and should not be shared with homeowners. It is supposed to be shared only with board members. After I am able to take out the legal issues, after I'm able to take out the financial issues, then we can reestablish the actual archive committee. What we need to do is to determine where we're going to keep these, who's going to be maintaining them, and who has access to them. But there are items that just cannot be shared with homeowners. There's executive meeting material should never be shared with anyone other than board members. Decisions, legal decisions, conversations with attorneys, that should not be handled with anybody except board members. And having notes on those, plus there's bankruptcies, there's things of that nature that homeowners are going through that does not need to be publicly disseminated or disseminated to homeowners.
Are you the only board member that has seen this?
I am the only one that has the second desk.
So you're the only one that's seen this
So far.
information? So what other board member is gonna look at this?
I have not withheld anything from anyone. They can have a copy of them right now. As a matter of fact, I was asking for copies of these for how long before I got the originals from Paul, which was one thumb drive. And when I asked, well, AAM told me there were two, where's the second one? Nobody knows where the second one is.
So
So-
when did you get the second one?
From AAM,
When?
about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. Okay, so I nominate, because I am on the archive committee and wanted to be part of all of this. And I
That's why I'm
understand-
specifically
I
looking
know,
at you.
and that's why I'm looking at you as
Yeah.
well. I would like to nominate Damon to be part of the overseeing what you're seeing on the flash drives and everything else, because they already have committees.
I think we're all gonna have a copy of that.
Yes.
Correct? And we're all gonna be able to look at it.
Right,
So-
but if there's only one board member on this committee and there are things that are not allowed for me to see, then I want a second board member on this committee, so that there is someone
Okay.
else backing up this,
Well,
the records.
I'll tell you, let's make a motion that Damon be added to the archive committee.
Second.
Please, thank
All
you.
those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Done.
You're welcome.
The ARC committee, update, please.
Okay. Oh, my PC is honestly.
Go.
Awesome. So, sorry.
Could you tell us who's on that committee while you're getting
It's
started?
gonna pop right up. Nice picture. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Was
what we
this
work
here?
with.
Was this here when we came in?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, real quickly, the. You're heading right here for you, bro.
Sorry.
So, excuse me. Five submissions have happened. 4 are things we're acting on. You can see the submissions themselves: a simple iron door addition, solar panels addition, solar panel, and a casita. You'll see a trend here that we're going to try to continue in the days to complete. That we've gone from 25 to 2 days typically. So you get it into PRM. They're very quick in getting the details to us. We quickly meet either in person or via email and then make a decision. Okay? So it's been pretty simple. The chairman is myself, Matt Brunell, and Bobby Vallejo are members of the community that are now on the ARC.
So when did I get taken off the ARC committee?
Recently, we had an issue where I was leaving for Europe.
Okay.
I was trying to get an iron door approved for a homeowner. And you see the number of days it took to get there? 25 days.
45 days, according to the rules.
We have 45 days,
Right.
correct. And so the main members that were in there with me did
They
not.
were who?
That was Ken and his daughter.
Okay.
When was
And
that?
what do you mean, when was that? It's right there.
I wasn't on it then.
You were.
No, you removed them at the
You
last
guys
meeting.
Yeah.
At the May
You guys
15th
did.
meeting.
At the last
Me.
meeting, which
You
was
removed them
in
on the
Mark?
last
So-
meeting.
Mr. Denton, don't you live
So
across the
he would-
street from him? That's pretty convenient.
I never got
For a
the,
meeting?
I was never given any of that information, so I,
Hold on, let's be very clear about this. There were emails to you specifically about, will you approve the door? You
No.
said, I will not vote via email, and at that point, I rebuilt the ARC.
Would've been nice to know that, thank
you as an ARC member, because I was never told that we were off. I'm just waiting for submissions. Nothing ever came through, so
So,
It would've been nice for you to
I
send
as
out
a
an
chairman
email
don't
and
have
change
the
that
ability.
rule.
I didn't have your contact
Unilateral.
information, you do not live in the neighborhood.
Huh?
Excuse me?
Do you?
You
She
have
lives in
my
our
email?
house.
Oh, she does now?
Yes,
Okay.
always has for the
Always.
last 10 years. Okay,
Wow.
just for my defense, I don't recall any of this, and I was basically felt I was not on the committee, that I had been removed, okay?
I can-
Sorry.
I can present the emails to
Okay, that's fine,
everybody.
I'm not arguing the point, I want to explain,
But why did you take Mark off?
They were
Because-
alternates, so.
But Mark was never an alternate to start with. See, that's the problem that I'm having. There were
So-
9
so
people
yeah.
that
See, we
signed
have
up.
one community
nine
that
people
represents
signed
the
up.
whole arc.
So we
You have
haven't,
people that live within, what, a couple houses of each other?
when was Brett removed?
Doesn't
Brett was
Bobby live
removed
on
when
the other
he
street?
was taken off the board.
Why?
No.
Why?
You don't
No.
have to be on
You
the
don't
board.
have to be on the board,
Why are you removing people from the
no.
committee?
Why were people removed from the initial committee even before that, I guess would be the question, so. as far
It's
as
a
I'm
one-year
concerned-
commitment. It's a 1 year, it's in the
So
CCNR.
when people signed up and made a
Not
list,
5
there were 9
years.
people that signed up.
8 years.
When I signed up for the archives,
And
he
there was a
signed up.
list of voting members and alternates. There were 6 alternates, there was 3 voting members.
Right,
We
so
actually started with 5.
a while ago,
The list that I
Ken
got from Paul Rubin had 3 voting members and everyone else was alternates.
Yeah, but Brett was a voting member, you don't have a right to take him off.
They didn't take him off. As far as I
Not
know.
on the list.
Just because he wasn't reelected on the board,
Right,
did
you
not,
can't take him off
did
the
not
committee.
delete him
not
from the
taking off
ARC.
committee.
So,
But his name's not up there.
correct. And so the issue was, I was working with the 2 voting members.
What he thought was voting members,
Correct,
who thought they weren't voting members,
okay.
okay?
Well, what's done's done. I
Okay,
actually.
I'm just
No,
wondering
because-
why, Chris, though,
That's
there's
our
people that
problem
live
here.
streets apart, you don't have any representatives from the entire community.
Bobby is at the other end of the neighborhood.
But that doesn't have
Of
anything to do
what
with
neighborhood,
it.
your neighborhood?
No.
There is one other thing, you don't even have to live in the neighborhood to be on the
Yeah.
ARC.
That's correct.
Which
Okay?
is
Right,
silly.
you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just ridiculous to have somebody not in the neighborhood.
I know it's ridiculous, but
But
it
it's-
doesn't
Yeah,
require
you
it.
could have
And,
used the
and
voting
Ken, to that
members like
point,
Ken
that is
and
up to the
Why didn't you go to
discretion
Mark?
of
He
the
was
board,
Absolutely.
whether they want somebody that's
Want
not.
I agree.
in the
on that
neighborhood.
Matt
committee.
Brunel was also.
He has
on
my
it.
information.
But
He
Mark
knows
was
how to
first
get the whole
as the
one.
alternate
So
on that
There's
list.
no there's no
No, it was, because even Ken said at
There's
the
There's
meeting,
no ranking.
Ken said at the meeting, Mark is the first alternate.
Yes,
So Mark should have been the first one you called, Chris. We live down the street.
I do know his number.
Okay, I know you do,
But
because
I
we
was,
bought even
I
a
was
weapon
literally
from you.
leaving for Europe the next day.
So I don't care.
So-
Make that
So
phone
that
call.
cancels the
So
rule.
So
you,
let me
so
explain.
believe it, you had time to
Well, there's
call Matt and
commitments,
Bobby
you can't do it.
before you left?
As you
You
all
did have
know,
time.
in our CCNRs, the ARC members serve at the discretion of the board. We are the board, and the board, at the last meeting, you are absolutely correct, we voted to remove Brett from that.
No,
From the
you
committee.
voted to move Ken, not Brett.
No, we.
Brett was the chairman. He
Yes.
was no longer the chairman, so he's off.
No, Ken.
No, you
voted
said it was a
Ken.
co-chairman.
actually,
You never said he was off the board.
co-chairman, if you go back.
Exactly,
Yes.
you're a co-chairman,
Yes.
so as a co-chairman, not being on the board, you cannot chair the
But he could
committee.
be on the board. He
So,
could be
well,
on
still be
he
on
was
committee.
removed, he was removed at the last meeting
Mm.
by board, and new committee members were added to
So
the.
where does it say,
Is
state
that in
in
the
our
minutes, by the
CCNRs,
way?
where's the rule that says
No, it's not.
you as a
9.1.
board member can remove
9.1.
anybody from the committee?
Is there room?
Is that in the minutes?
What?
Only,
So it says
only
in there-
Denton,
changing
did you see
chairman.
those in the minutes that you just looked
I
at?
said I was appointed chairman.
It says he was appointed chairman, I didn't see part that said removal, I just kinda skimmed it. But what I'm curious is why is
Wow.
it that
Oh.
when we had 9 people sign up, obviously there's a lot of people that wanna be on this committee.
So
But there's not in the CCNRs, there's not a maximum or a minimum amount of people.
Minimum is
So-
3, there it is.
Three
Well,
and
okay,
one
minimum,
alternate.
sorry, but there's not a maximum amount of people.
no.
And 9 people signed up, so I know there's been very high interest in this committee.
Yeah. So some account was taken into, do you have an open issue with the board about payment? So,
There are no
You have
open,
open issues about the
there are
board.
no open issues
Don't
with
you have a
Mark.
boat in your backyard? Don't you have a boat in your backyard to go over the fence, which is against CCNRs?
My boat goes over the fence?
Yeah. I'd love to show you that. I have a picture of it.
Okay, we were doing so well.
All right, this is
Yeah.
why
That's
we're
off,
on
but
the
that's
arc.
off the track.
No, if
I
you're
guess
gonna
we
make it
don't-
fair for
but
every,
we
your
don't have
problem
that.
is
But
you wanna,
I'd like to make a motion.
you wanna make it fair for everybody, not just for certain people.
Sounds like you wanna
And that's-
retaliate against people.
That's what
Yeah.
the problem is, and what this board has done for the past
Okay,
couple
but
of
you
years.
just made the comment that they're all from the same community, and that's an issue with you.
It's
If
the
you
same
join the
neighborhood.
board, you're in the same neighborhood. So what,
No, I
how
said
is that
We
solving?
don't know where Rock
community.
is.
Okay, so how is that solving what you're saying is an issue? I
No,
don't
I'm just saying
understand.
you have more people on it that are around the neighborhood, not just 2 streets away from each other.
So the point would be to try and spread that out, right, Mark?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't think
So
anybody
Bobby's
up there
at
has
the
an
end of the
issue with that. Okay,
I
so
think-
let's just
I think
move
that's an
forward.
opportunity.
And Chris, you can take an opportunity to expand the committee.
yeah,
Make it
back.
5.
I'm back,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Make it 5.
9 is just too much. I mean,
9's a
we got
lot.
too many
9's too
people's
many.
opinions going on.
What, and you never get a vote?
We can't even get
And
through
so,
this.
and so you've seen how quickly we've gotten through things.
Right,
The
and I
key
do
is-
appreciate that because it, you know, these things that they're asking for are not,
And we have
Outrageous.
another person that wants to build a house. We've dallied around with things with him, with the previous ARC for months. And it's not fair to him as a homeowner, a new homeowner, a builder. We need to go through those things
Excuse
quickly.
me, don't blame the
Is
previous
that coming
owner. We
up
had
here
none
in
of
this,
that.
Chris?
We had
Is
none
that
of
coming up in
that.
this discussion?
It will once
Okay, no,
there's
no.
submissions in.
That's the next, no, is it coming up here in this meeting?
I would expect to have a meeting after this meeting.
We have a homeowner session coming up.
Is that you, man, sir?
Yes, Kim?
Yeah, okay.
When are the ARC meetings with your 3 members that you just shared?
So the first one was noted on the screen. And so,
What did it say?
I didn't see that date. What was the date of that? Because, those are supposed to be open meetings. Well, how are we supposed to know about them? We didn't let anyone know. We didn't get emails. They weren't posted.
Kim, when you were on the board, I don't remember.
So I would like to-
having an open meeting around the art
I
committee.
know.
Kim,
I didn't
guess-
say it.
Kim, what is your concern? Because when you were on the board, I don't remember you ever supporting open meetings for the art committee.
That's because they didn't have meetings.
Are you saying Ken and his daughter never had meetings? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying from, actually, is it Mr. Simchek? Actually, from January 2017 through January 2019, I did want to attend meetings, and I'm still waiting for minutes on those meetings, but I was never invited.
Did you attend any of the ones from January 19 until our committee was shifted?
No, I had previous plans.
And so when
But
they-
I would
when they
like to
withdrew-
attend these now.
Kim, when they tried to withdraw all of our architectural guidelines, were any of those meetings open to any of us members? When the last art committee tried to take away all the architectural guidelines and return us to city code? I'm just wondering.
Can I make
Oh.
a suggestion that
We move on.
today we move forward and make things how we want them in the future?
Yeah.
And anything from the past is the past, and let's make the future what we want it to be.
I'm
Is
all
that
fine with
that
that.
agreeable to the rest of the community?
I'm sorry, Chris, there are, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are agendas and minutes from each of those
Correct.
meetings as well?
Paul has them.
So I think what I'm hearing is they would
Okay,
like to
good.
know about the ARC meetings.
Yes.
They'd like to have minutes, right?
Yeah,
So,
minutes are-
as chairman, Chris, I bet you will take care of that.
He's given them already to Paul, we'll get those distributed.
Perfect.
So at some point when we have a website, they'll all be there.
Hey,
Fantastic. All right.
So how are you going to let us know if there is a next meeting?
Next word.
Yes.
You could look on the website. Or
But
you
if there's not a website, how are you gonna let us all know before the
Yes.
website when the next meeting is, Chris?
Until then,
I'll give
how
you
have you been doing? You've been posting on.
I'm sure you can't call everybody, so.
I'll call you, Lisa, since you're really concerned.
Posting
Well,
on next
I would
door,
like to
posting-
know
Posting on the
things.
mailboxes.
We've been
I'd
posting
like
on
to have more than
Facebooks,
5 days
next
notice
door.
that we're having these
What's
emergency
Facebooks?
meetings. Because Saturday's for my family, not the meeting this
Oh.
Friday.
We all have families.
People aren't invited on that.
So let's move on so
Okay.
we can get
So what
back
time
to our
is this
meeting.
meeting?
Landscape committee? Okay.
What time
Okay.
is that meeting, Chris?
Which meeting are
The
you?
one on 629 for the art that's up there, what time was that? Did you have that meeting?
7:38.
At your house?
Yeah,
When's the next one scheduled?
don't have an next one.
No,
scheduled.
okay.
We'll have probably one to review some house plans.
And then PRM can send out the email like they did with today's meeting. to let us
Yeah, and I'll
know.
charge admission to walk into my house.
How often do you plan on having an ARC meeting?
Well, so far, our unanimous votes that we've been getting for doors and solar have been going rather well. As you can see, 0 days to 2 days. So I only anticipate truly having a quarterly meeting where we can review everything through the quarter if you want to.
Okay.
And if it's not unanimous, they have to have a meeting to discuss it. If it's a unanimous decision, that's how it's been done, that's our historical method. And as long as there's minutes, and as long as there's an agenda, that's perfectly acceptable. So meetings are required if it's not unanimous.
And we'd want to meet.
Exactly.
Just a
Okay.
quick question.
Yes?
Quarterly is 90 days, and we have a 45-day limit. How's that gonna work out? That sounds like we
Maybe
have
it
to
should be
we
biannual.
have to have 2 a quarter to make the 45-day.
No, what he said was they'll have them as necessary, but at a minimum quarterly. If there's no submissions, there's no 45-day requirement.
Sure.
Okay, landscape committee update, please.
Okay, so I'm just gonna cover a little bit about our trail maintenance and trees. So if you've driven around the community, I think you know, and if you've walked the trails, I think you know that we've got some pretty significant disrepair. In talking with previous board members, one of the reasons that we had some delays in terms of what we can do on our trail system really is for 2 reasons. The first is to ensure that we did not fall into an area that was subject to Army Corps of Engineers requirements, where we would have to get a permit to trim and maintain that trail. So after a lot of back and forth and multiple board members looking to clarify, we are fine. We are not in an area that's subject to Army Corps of Engineer issues, and does not require us to get a permit to maintain those trails. The other was just in concern to what our current landscape contract provides to us. So previously, when we were with Four Peaks would maintain the trail, and to define what maintain means is they would basically just keep the trail clear. There's nothing in our initial contract that basically stated that we were paying for any type of trail maintenance work. Part of that had to do from many, many boards ago, again, around this Army Corps of Engineer concern and just trying to get to the bottom of it, and then it getting deprioritized and nothing being addressed. In addition, when you look at our trails, we have a lot of trail systems that abut to properties. So if you look at other municipalities such as City of Scottsdale, they recommend that you keep at least a 5-foot barrier for defensible space, and also maintain a 15-foot clearance of dead and dry brush away from homes to ensure that there's not fire risk. So if you want to just move forward, I just want to give you a kind of a sense of what the trails look like today. So this is the trail over if you go in front off of Cibola Vista Drive, because as you can see, we've got a lot of
Bahada? Got Bahada?
Yeah, this is in front of Bahada,
Yeah.
correct. So we've got trees
Is that where the water leak was? I think it was.
on the back side. This is the
Yeah.
front that is adjacent to
Gotcha. Yeah.
Cibola Vista Drive. If you want to move forward, you can kind of see just some other. This is on the backside when you were back by where the leak was.
Yeah.
This is on the backside of Cibola Vista. Got a lot of overgrown brush, as you can see, going up into the. That's a property right there. If you want to move forward again. This is not a scene from The Walking Dead. That's my son standing on the trail saying, "Dad, what is going on?" So in any event, you can see it's significantly overgrown at this point. So we went ahead and contacted not only our current landscape company, but also got some additional bids. So I'm going to walk you through what that looks like, and then we can discuss. Oh yeah, there's a picture of me. And you can kind of see how tall some of that brush is. It's pretty bad. You can go ahead and move forward. So basically we have a couple of different options, and just so you're aware, we met with these 3 companies and we provided them, again, a site visit. We also provided them a map of the trail system, and we also provided them really our GIS mapping of our irrigated tree system, which I'll cover in a second piece here, just so everybody had really the same place to work from to determine what the options are. So just to understand the options, so ABC Scapes, they're our current maintenance provider. You see them around. They've been maintaining our community now for I think about 6 months. Ken? 6.
They started in February.
Yeah. So they're very familiar with our trail system. Currently, they actually do maintain a portion of our trail, which they state originally was something that was agreed upon when they did the contract.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
When we did the walk around, and Damon went with at least 1 or 2 of them, on the west side where the stables are, on the east side of that track, our landscape area, our common area goes right up to the trail, okay? So they were told they maintained that common area, so by definition, they maintained up to the east side of that west side trail. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and by definition, and this is where in a way, what they said to you is we were told not to do the east side. They were not told to do the west side of the west side trail as well as that, okay? And that was not in Fort Pete's contract as part of the contract, and so it didn't get put in the three bidders that bid. That's where the screw up, if anything, came. Does that make sense?
I think what it comes down to is really the devil's in the details when it comes to this stuff. You know, we don't have any trail maintenance or tree maintenance in any of our current landscape contract, which is a big issue.
We tried to get them to bid on trees, and they said it's just too big a deal to do. So all three of them were asked to put in trees, and they didn't. But they gave us alternate to it, but none of the trails were included, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because they all did for this time, so we'll get to that. I just want to cover this, and then we can certainly move on to discussion. So our current landscaper, ABC Scapes, our current maintenance provider, they're very familiar with our trail system. They can actually start the cleanup immediately. And again, when I say cleanup, the definition for this portion of what we're discussing is for the entirety of our trail system to ensure that we have a 2-foot clean area on the actual trail itself, and then a 5-foot defensible barrier along any of the walls where there are homes, and then a 15-foot cleanup of dead and dry brush past that point to meet code for City of Scottsdale. And by the way, I actually spoke to City of Peoria Fire Prevention as well. They don't actually have a policy, but from what they told me, that they're actually sharing, but they're working on it, and it sounds like they're gonna align to some of the things that like City of Scottsdale and others.
You may recall about 3 weeks ago, there was
big fire.
a nice big fire that did not hit any homes, but it threatened quite a few in Scottsdale.
So again, for the cost for ABC Scapes, and I'll just cover each of these and then we can discuss. So ABC Scapes, because they're our current maintenance contract, they said they can start to incorporate that into work immediately. They estimate to do the cleanup, it's gonna take them anywhere from 2 to 2.5 weeks to go through and clean for what we've requested. The cost of that will be $32,176. We also got 2 other quotes. DLC Landscaping actually does the maintenance for West Wing Mountain. They have a lot of similar common area and trail systems that we do. So we asked them for a quote as well. And so they offered us a bid where they actually broke apart instituting the 5-foot fire mitigation barrier and then the trail cleanup separately. But if you look at them in totality, if we did both to keep all of the quotes equal, they were at a cost of $52,878. They're scheduled out 4 to 6 weeks before they could even start, and they estimate it would probably take them 4 to 5 weeks, assuming that they would have to rotate crews in and out based on their additional maintenance that they have for other communities. And then finally, Caretaker, which was another company that had initially bid when we had selected ABC Scapes for current maintenance. They also came out and provided bids. They are also scheduled about 4 to 6 weeks out. They were the low bid at $15,773. So I'm gonna stop there for a second before we talk about trees to see if there are questions.
I'd like to comment on ABC. They provided a map, very, very detailed, of what they are gonna do, which includes the walls that border West Wing, which is really a tortuous place to get to and work on. I mean, it is very, very complete. I am really impressed with what they did.
I agree.
Okay, and anybody I only have one copy of this, but if anybody wants to look at it, just yell and you're welcome to look at it. It's very well done. I'm impressed.
Do you want to make one motion for everything, or would you like to go with this so we can discuss it? Make a motion, we can discuss, we can always let your motion die. But that way we can have a discussion and then we can open it up to homework.
Sure, I mean, from my perspective, I like to make the motion. If I were to select any of these 3, having met all 3, I feel probably most comfortable with ABC Scapes, and I'll tell you why. Caretaker, while they're the low bid, if you've walked around the community, that is a very low bid.
Yes.
I struggle to figure out how they would even make any margin on doing that type of work for us. DLC, again,
and what shortcuts they take to try to
right.
While you're on Caretaker, those are the folks over in, what is it, Black over in Vestancia, the real ritzy.
Blackstone? They're well
Yeah,
enough.
Blackstone.
Yeah.
They are one hell of a first-class company.
For sure.
I find that incredible, one that you can even do it for that, but.
And just to also, you bring up a good point, I actually called them again and said, are you sure that this is for the entire, oh yes, I was like,
I mean, we should
okay.
show them this map.
They have
and
it.
say,
They have it.
They have a tree.
They have it.
yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry, I have a problem with caretakers.
So I think, and again, I'll make a motion here. So kind of two things. I think going through this exercise, there's really two things to consider. The first is we have some immediate maintenance needs that we have to take care of right now because we have things that put us at risk for fire aside from the aesthetics. So we have to talk about today. And I think long term, I'll tell you that each of these, while the bids are different, the experience, jury's out. I think there's an opportunity for us to look at total maintenance with one provider, which would include day-to-day maintenance of the community, trail maintenance, and then also tree maintenance as well. I think there's an opportunity for us to get a full bid for that once we do the 2020 budget. But for now, I would make a motion to select ABC Scapes primarily because they are our maintenance provider already. They have a vested interest in making sure that it's done correctly. They're the bid, and again, from a cost perspective, I think that that's fair, and they can start the work now before we get really far into monsoon season.
And it started last night.
Yes. Okay, so, any discussion?
We have a question back here in the corner. just so-
We have a motion, nobody has seconded it yet, but we have a motion.
Yes.
Question. Michelle?
The question is, I noticed along the trails, as we talked about, a lot of dead trees.
Yep.
And some of them are quite large. Now, I know that you said you would, trim away back 5 feet, but, some of those trees are a little bit farther than
We're gonna
5
talk
feet.
about trees shortly, because,
Okay.
yeah, we've gotta talk about the overhang on the trees. We're
Okay,
just
but
talking
I'm
about.
just talking about dead trees,
Yeah.
that's all I was talking
And
about.
and just to let you know, some of them do have dead tree removal as a part of the cost.
Okay.
So
ABC.
if there are specific ones that you guys know about, we should probably know about those too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other? Yes. Go ahead.
No, the, caretaker with the 15,000, I mean, they wanted 9,000 a month to take care of our, landscape.
Right, they
when
were
bid it.
highball on our
So,
original
question
bid.
there is, did they screw up when they gave us our initial bid, because they do one heck of a job. I mean, I'd ask that question. Two is, where you were taking your photos at, are you gonna clear that all the way up to the homeowner's walls then?
So you would have a 5-foot barrier from the homeowner's wall, so basically open space.
Right.
And then
What's on the trails? Is it 2 foot on the trails?
2 foot, yeah, so if you're thinking the walking trail, 2
Yeah.
feet on each side. Where you have adjacent properties, you have a 5-foot barrier for fire prevention, and then an additional 15 feet back, removal of dead brush.
Okay, so you're only gonna go 2 foot off the trail, off the pathways.
Correct.
There's no way we go a little more than that, just with kids and rattlesnakes, and, I mean, if you're gonna trim that much, you're already gonna have a foot of growth
Yeah.
there. I mean, why
What
not
would
just
you-
trim the whole
what-
thing to
yeah.
the wall and be done with it?
Well, in some cases, that's gonna be the case, so if you look
Okay.
at like behind Bahada, you basically have, basically the homes, and you
Yeah.
have, there's not 15 feet to the trail, so that'll be clear.
Okay.
And then on the opposite side, you'll have 2 foot, and then if you have more than, if there's not homes adjacent there, you'll basically have the 2 feet there. So
Right, right.
I think, I think what we can do, to your point, is we can get the work done. Again, they have a vested interest in making this look really, really good. If you look at the areas that they actually maintain right now, they look really nice. So I think if it's going to be something that you think would overgrow quickly or hide, wildlife that puts
Yeah.
kids at risk, I think they'd be willing to work with us.
Okay.
When I would assume they're not gonna do it in a day, so
No.
they can start the job and we can go out and we can assess, and
Yeah.
if we feel like it needs to be a little further, then.
For sure, and they said it would take them about 2.5 weeks. It's gonna take a little longer than that. That's okay.
It really is, and to get on it and get
Yeah.
it done,
Yeah.
really makes good sense.
To our knowledge, I don't think it's ever been cut away from the homes.
It hasn't
So,
for a year.
I mean, that's gonna take forever for them to get that.
I think that's a
cleaned
great
up.
call.
Kids paintball games.
Is this firefighter approved? I know we got firefighters
Yes.
right here.
Yes.
That's my question.
Here's the question.
All of these proposals, I assume we're operating under the spirit of the proposal, assuming that their estimates are gonna be within reason of what they project. Do you feel there's a need for accountability financially if they go way beyond that scope of proposal?
Great question. ABC has actually been willing to add language to say it will go up to that amount. So they will basically not take on-
exceed.
Not exceed.
And you're confident that their proposals, they obviously have the most to lose in this. that they're fairly consistent.
Yeah, I mean, they have skin in the game.
accurate.
They do our maintenance. If the trails suck and we're pissed off, we're not locked into any long-term maintenance contract with them, so. I feel
Caretaker's way
comfortable
too
with
much, that just doesn't make sense.
And Ryan, who's, one of the things we'd like to do in the future is, as we look at a consolidated approach to landscaping, Ryan has offered to come to a meeting, do a presentation, you can meet him. I think that's something we need to do as we go into 2020, just so we don't have to do this as a one-off all the time, it's just included in the minutes.
I have a question, are these, bids just relating to, the vegetation, trees, plants, or do they also relate to the maintenance of the trail itself? Cause I noticed some of the asphalt trails are cracking, pretty significant cracks, or you can bike tires stuck in that. And
Yeah.
also there's areas, behind our house where children have piled dirt to make bike racks.
Yeah.
Is that something that's gonna be
This
addressed?
does not include any, like the hardscape of the actual like asphalt and everything. I think I agree with you. I think there's some opportunity there. I think the first thing we need to do is be able to see it, right? And then we can assess what we.
So is that more
that'd be-
long-term?
I think that's gonna have to be long-term.
But did
You don't want the bike ramp?
I'll take it down.
On the trails, didn't you say we were gonna redo the trails?
No, on track Avenue, that's for the 9 pound. That's only the lot down the
Trail, just one.
Is that the trail behind the horses?
Yes.
No.
Well, no.
It is not.
It's north of Cibola Vista
Yeah.
Resort.
One of the things we'll ask
The one
for
that
when we
goes
go
to
through this
the
exercise, to bring up your point though, is you're talking about like, so where some of the actual, the rock trails eroded and things like that, we're gonna ask that they just give us an assessment of what they see and places where that needs to be repaired, and I think we're gonna have to look at that as a phase 2. The purpose of this right now is really just for the removal of vegetation and the
Oh,
dead
okay.
growth that's.
Cause obviously the trails are gonna need maintenance.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
And more rock.
and when you look at what we're trying to accomplish, this is safety. I mean,
Oh,
this
I
is
know.
something, I mean, lightning coming
Yeah.
down,
Oh, I
you're
know.
gonna get fires, and with the monsoon coming up, that's why we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about trees in
We
a
need to
second.
get it,
If you don't trim down what you have, you're gonna end up replacing a lot more than you're gonna need to.
Right.
I'm sorry, one more, yeah.
If I could just try and make a suggestion here, one thing that might be beneficial to kind of, on these meetings, when you have an agenda set, we try and see, the people who have these ideas and they're looking to take things down, like a dead tree or whatever, maybe have a bucket at PRM where people can email to that bucket of things that are on their radar. So you guys can go through them and then, and you know what I mean? And then that way people can get their thoughts and, out there.
Good,
You know?
we can address them quickly.
And another one is the gophers. They're eating the plants, and they're digging holes, and they're ruining stuff.
Good luck with that one.
I know.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. You know the road
Yeah,
that goes
yeah,
up to
right,
Lake
right,
Pleasant by
right.
Cibola Vista?
I'm sorry.
It's all that overgrowth, is that all by Cibola Vista?
Exactly.
When you say the road,
Yeah, I'm trying to. think
Joe
of the
Max,
name.
you're trying Joe Max?
Yeah, it goes right up to Cibola Vista and then you turn right and head towards West Wing. That whole sidewalk is completely overgrown.
On the
I-
west
I
side?
assumed that was.
There was one that just got cleaned, which is the Joe Max entrance.
Yeah, by the west side of.
Sorry, you're talking the other side?
Between the property and Cibola Vista.
That might be that should be the resort, I think.
I'm just confirming that, yeah, okay.
We can.
That's pretty bad, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, I'll second the motion. Any discussion among board members?
Is that to accept the 32,000 from ABC Scapes?
That was the motion.
I have no discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you wanna move on to the?
Yes. Okay, trees. I separated this out because it's a little bit different. I'll try and keep this brief. So just to kind of give you a sense of our tree inventory, this was done by ABC Scapes for us. These are all of our irrigated trees. These are not trees that are out in the trail that are naturally occurring. This is our irrigated tree system. We have 579 irrigated trees. So it's a pretty substantial investment for us. All of you that are homeowners and know what it costs to replace a full-size tree, it's worth our while to go ahead and keep these maintained. If you just want to go through the next couple photos, just want to give you a sense of kind of, if you look around the neighborhood, we've got some significant overgrowth on some of those trees. They haven't been trimmed in some time. ABC Scapes has been maintaining trees, ad hoc as a branch breaks or something, is encroaching that they get a call, I think, to PRM for. But generally speaking, as for a full use of all of our trees, that hasn't been done in some time. So again, we went to the 3 providers, ABC Scapes, again, current maintenance provider. They already did all the GIS mapping. Again, from a start time, they've been actually offering this to us for a period of time, for about a month and a half now, to potentially start. So they basically gave us two cost options. Option number one is for $60,000.10. That's for all 579 trees. That would be starting immediately. They also offered us a discounted price if we decided to wait until after the busy season in November. That option would reduce the cost an additional 5% down to $52,950. And again, I'm giving you totals here, but they actually broke down per tree, per trimming cost. It's very detailed. I just wanted to give high level so everybody understood the overall cost for this. DLC actually could not complete their bid in time. They're too busy. So they actually came, they toured the neighborhood, they went through the process and said, you know what, we can't get it to you in time for your discussion. So full disclosure, you know, that's just wanted to give you guys an update that. And if they were to start, again, we'd have to get in line with the other communities that they support. Caretaker also came and did a full tree bid as well. They're scheduled as of the moment about a month to a month and a half out. Their cost option was actually a 3-year tree management plan, and I'll kind of go into that a little bit. So rather than doing a one-time cost, they offered to give us an option that covers full tree maintenance over the course of 3 years. This does not mean we have to lock into a 3-year contract. What it allows us to do is we can either do a 1 year with them with the option to continue service, or we could lock in the pricing on the 3-year up front. One thing that I thought was really interesting in their bid as we compare it is in my conversations to just get clarity around the contract, one of the quotes that they provided back is all selected trees receive an evaluation while working towards pruning objectives, etc., which I decipher to, we're not gonna trim all your trees. We're gonna look at your trees, we're gonna decide what needs trimming, and then basically, there you go. So, you know, whereas, again, I think the benefit we have with ABC Scapes is they're our maintenance provider. We don't like it. One of you complains, one of us complains. They're going to have to deal with it. It's not a one and done. So one other just final thought. Just this morning, we actually did. We had asked a company by the name of Artistic Land Management to also participate and give us bids, and we heard nothing from them. No site visit, no follow-up, right, Paul? Nothing until you got this email. So I don't know when they did their site visit. I don't know when they came out.
He's got the right number.
Yeah, they actually, yeah. And I'm sorry, in terms of the trail path trimming, they actually didn't give us a total. They just gave us a per hour rate with no estimate of per hour, which is why I didn't talk about it last time. On the trees, they provided a bid of $45,451. But again, other than looking at the map we sent them, I don't know what type of evaluation they did. They didn't contact anybody. So, sorry, questions?
Just one on the trees. So there are trees that are irrigated trees that I'm not sure if it's ABC or the prior landscape company chopped off so that there's just little stumps. Would those be replaced since they were irrigated trees? Did they replace those trees then?
It's a good question. I think we'd have to see where they are and ask them specifically as to why they were removed and what the plan for maintenance would be. Was it because they were dead? Was it because, you know, it's
well, it's right across from my house. It's actually one of the photos you took. Part of the tree broke in a storm, and they decided they came out and in 3 stages chopped it down. But now I've noticed that ABC, which you might want to talk to them about, they're violating state law. They're dumping fuel on that stump. So you might want to help educate them on the laws about stuff fuel on the ground.
Try not to burn it down.
So the stump is still there and it sprouts.
What street are you on? Just like
91st Drive.
Hey, yes.
But I've just noticed it sprouts, and I think his solution for it is to pour fuel on it.
Okay, I will talk to him about that.
I got a question.
Wait, can we, are you gonna make a motion, or are we just, if we wanna just discuss, that's fine, I just wanna make sure we do this in the right order. Are you prepared to make a motion, or you wanna wait to evaluate?
I would say, so I mean, this is one of these things where I'll tell you, my concern is what happens during the monsoons right now. We have a lot of top-heavy trees.
If they snap, we're gonna end up in the same.
And just so you're aware, we do, like, tree maintenance from a tree breaking cleanup perspective is additional on top of our maintenance contract. So my recommendation would be, again, to go with ABC Scapes. And I only say this because they are a current maintenance provider. They have skin in the game. This is an immediate need right now. I think the motion the board should then take going into the end of the year is looking at a fully, inclusive maintenance contract through a proper RFP channel.
Okay, so we
I
have
do
a
have
motion,
one-
now we can talk.
I do have one other question. Do you know if they have a certified arborist?
According to their bid, they do, so the ANSI, trimming guidelines that they have for like crowning and things like that, yeah, it's
Yeah.
included in their bid.
One thing, I got a question for everybody. When trees do go down, do you think it's necessary to replace it with a tree? Just seeing how many trees that we have in our neighborhood.
Now we're getting bigger.
Right. So what I'd like to know is, would we like to replace that with some other plant? Like a ocotillo or something like that?
Well, I guess in the situation of what I look at across the street from me, there was 3 trees at one point, and I get it. I mean, they did it to our homes, they put too many trees too close,
Right, yeah.
doesn't make sense.
That's kind of what I'm
Now
kinda
you went
getting
from
at.
3 to 1, and it's, so you have like nothing for about 40 feet.
Right.
And then a tree that looks just terribly sad, because it's never been really. So, in that case, yeah, I would say, yes, it'd be nice if there was 2 trees.
Right,
there.
right, yeah. I get it, I just
But
don't
yeah,
know.
I don't think you need a tree every 10 feet.
Right, yeah. So that's kind of my idea of how to just kind of replace that tree, and still have our landscaping and, you know.
Maybe it depends on where it is.
And it's a desert, some type of desert plant, it doesn't really require a lot of water and blah, 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 so.
Unfortunately, I don't think you're gonna get one solid, consistent answer.
Right.
Right. I think it's
So-
a fair ask. I think as a part of this, we could, when we look for bids, I think there's an opportunity to do 2 things. I think there's an opportunity for the maintenance aspect, and I think there's an opportunity to evaluate look and feel of the community from an aesthetic perspective, and other things we want to address, whether it's the trees, whether it's something else, there's an opportunity to do that.
That's what the area is on. Can anyone in back, I'm sorry, can you try to lower that temperature? Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah.
We tried since 9:15.
She went to ask the lady, hey, can we?
Just think cool spots.
Yeah, exactly, that was a cool issue.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't, yes, Karen.
Well, I'm looking at the agenda. Where are we on the agenda? I don't see tree trimming on here.
It's under the landscaping and update.
It's landscape committee update.
All right.
Now, Chris, one thing, we probably have up to 50 stumps scattered all throughout. This doesn't address that, and I think down the road, we probably need to address that. And there's another issue, when we were dealing with the painter, there are some trees that are upsetting the walls in places, and we didn't address that.
We've
So
we've
at
got some stuff coming up.
Yeah, but at some point, those are 2 issues, not urgent today, but they
Well,
do need.
there's a whole landscape design issue that has to be addressed.
Okay.
And I think the issue comes down to, let's clean up the paths, let's get the trees cleaned up, then we can sit down and truthfully evaluate what do we have, what don't we have, where are we at. But right now, it's just so overgrown and out of control.
Right.
Yeah. It's tough, yes.
I agree. Is it in the budget? The tree trimming?
Yeah, so at this point, we did not budget for that item, it was not in the 2019 budget, so it would come out of the reserve fund, for which we've received word that we are adequately funded to be able to make those adjustments.
Per the engineering study, plus the money that'll be coming back from the NICON.
Right. 2 things. Damon brought up what we're replacing stuff with. When they build all these homes, the builders put the cheapest trees they could find through our subdivision. So if we're gonna replace trees, let's try to put something a little bit better that will withstand Arizona monsoon instead of the cheap ones we have out there right now. 2, caretaker. This is the second little bit caretaker's given us. You know, we're almost 2 years of service with them compared to what AV-Scapes gives us for 1. I think you have to seriously look at Caretaker. They're a really good company.
Yeah, I
They
don't
do really
disagree.
nice work.
I don't disagree.
And it kind of keeps AV-Scapes honest.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just doing that, I'm sorry, that.
Well, they might want us
Just to get.
in our business.
Yeah,
If they
I
screwed up.
don't disagree. I think again, in my mind, it's broken into 2 parts. It's broken into like immediate needs and then what's best long term. And I think, I agree, the caretaker was extremely professional. Their bids were top notch. I felt like they brought the right people out to do the tour of the community. So I think when we look at a total contract, we certainly need to invite them back.
We've waited this long to trim trees. I don't think 4 to 6 weeks is gonna kill us.
I think it's a good idea, Mark. I disagree with you. I think that 4 to 6 weeks could make a difference right now. And so, I mean,
So
that's an
what do you
opinion
think the
thing.
cost is if we
But I have a
have
question.
20 trees break in a monsoon?
Oh, a lot of money.
Well, it depends, what if they fall on something?
Right.
And we've already had, we had a, when I actually did a quick site tour with Ryan, it was after
I wouldn't call it a monsoon, but it was after a night that we had like 25-mile-an-hour winds, and there were 3 big, huge branches that they had to come back and remove, so. I think it's top heavy, I think, you know, again.
But to your
it's over
point,
there.
Patrick, when they're saying select, maybe they're only saying 50 trees.
Who's that?
Caretaker?
Yeah.
Caretaker maybe
Well, that was part of-
50 trees or 100
Yeah.
trees, not 579
They're basically
trees.
going to
Exactly.
evaluate and
Right.
say, this one
So-
doesn't need it, this one does.
But we may say that tree needs to be trimmed, and they say, oh, no, it's fine.
Right.
And that price then would go.
Well, one of the things that we're going to look at in the budget process, and it's another point coming up, we're going to start looking at the contracts that we have and make sure that we're bidding them out. We're bidding the right services. The claims of 20% less and they're doing 20% less work does not mean that we have the same issues. So if we have a unified set of requirements, everyone gets them and everyone bids, that's what we have. So we have to look at everything we do that way.
We talk about trees that are possibly selected trees that need to be trimmed, and then ones that may not need to be trimmed. I mean, isn't ABC Scapes gonna do the same thing? If there's a tree that doesn't need to be trimmed, why would they trim it? How many trees do we have that need to be trimmed?
Yeah.
And if you do have
Looks like
ABC
a lot of
Scapes,
them.
do we? I don't know, there's a lot of trees in my neighborhood. They're just tiny little trees that have been scalped by the previous landscape company, so
so again, just to refresh, this is for the irrigated trees that we have, right, not the ones that are necessarily naturally occurring in the NAOS. And if you take a drive around the neighborhood and you look at the trees themselves, I would say ballpark, probably 80% of them need some degree of trimming, or even if it's not trimming, just crowning, and to cut them in a way that they actually grow in the right way. There are a few that have been replanted or that are younger that don't, but.
I mean, one option for ABC Scapes was to have them take priority on the trees that are at risk of being blown over.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So, and then maybe they give us a different bid if they postpone the ones that are not at risk, or we don't care because it's something we want to rip out anyway.
Also, when they do the trimming, I'm sure they'll do it like in an area, do this area and then do this area. Will someone on the landscape committee be kind of looking at that to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Who's on that committee?
Me.
And
Me and me. Does somebody like to join?
I have an idea.
I'll gladly be a part of these. I'm just concerned that, to make sure that the language, if we do an RFP with these folks, is consistent with what the homeowner wants. We're doing this in good faith, it seems like, when they start talking about select trees, which is fine, but in the future, if we see a history of a problem, then maybe the language of the RFP needs to indicate that.
Yeah, and the select trees are in the caretaker quotes, not the ABC quote. ABC is just like, we're gonna be doing all your trees.
But was the RFP, did it specifically say all trees?
All trees.
Well, then they defaulted on the language of the RFP.
Already.
Is my concern.
But if you go look at a caretaker property, I mean, these guys are top notch.
Oh, I agree. I'm not disputing that at all.
So I think they might have misspoken their language. I think I have more trust over caretaker because I know how long that company's been in business compared to ABC Scapes. And this is second low bid they've given us. That kind of tells me they screwed up on the first, when they tried to get our maintenance contract, they messed up.
No, I agree. I think if the language is clear, then there's no dispute.
So we've got a motion on the table, I'll second that motion. And I'm actually gonna second that motion with a slight amendment, that you will go back and let's see if they will do the immediate needs, so that we don't have monsoon expense. And then they'll do the rest after November, and perhaps give us that 5% discount on the remaining balance. Are we good with the amendment to that proposal?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, I basically just made a separate.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
I am abstaining on this, I just, okay?
Okay.
We're in favor of one percent.
Okay, you bring up a very good point, and one that is the next issue. There is right off of Spur and Cibola Vista Drive. There is the wall that continues to become even more damaged, thanks to growth of a tree on the private homeowner's side that's pushing the wall out. As you're aware, we are responsible for the wall maintenance. However, given that it's the individual homeowner's tree that's causing the issue, I guess the question I have to ask is, has this homeowner ever been contacted?
Yes.
I thought they sent him a letter.
Okay,
At least a year ago, AAM sent them a letter, and this is all recollection, okay?
Yep.
I don't have any paperwork. The answer was, it's not my tree, it's not my problem,
okay.
okay?
We will, then I'm gonna make a motion that if PRM would contact the homeowner one last time and tell them that in the event they are unwilling to trim that tree and fix the wall at this point, the association will cut the tree and fix the wall and bill them on their account.
Yeah, I think there's actually 2 or 3 trees.
Let's give them 30 days.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 or 3 trees, don't just say
Well,
one. Whatever.
Whatever it is up against the wall, I saw it there, yeah. I didn't know if it was one tree with many branches.
I think it's at least 2 and it might be
I
3.
have
Yeah.
a picture in my phone, but I don't have. a
There's
picture.
2 trees, Paul.
Just
Okay,
say.
it is too?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the motion, homeowners?
So at the last meeting, Paul Rubin stated that he was gonna contact them, he was gonna send them a letter.
We may have, I don't know, sitting here, I can't remember. We may have, I don't know, we have to go back and look.
Okay.
Regardless, we'll.
We'll do it. We'll give them 30 days, if it's not done in 30 days,
We'll get it
well,
done.
that's the motion, yes.
Paul, just suggestion to
Yeah.
the comment that it's not their tree. It may not have been when they bought the property, I
Yeah.
believe they're out of state, so photos to them. show
All I
them
know
the
is it's
property.
behind their wall.
It is, yeah, so maybe it's just photographic.
So
evidence.
unless the wall was built beyond
Yeah.
the property line.
And they're responsible for like weed maintenance and
Sure.
such on
Yeah,
those
all
lots,
that.
so that would have fall right into
Yeah.
the same category.
Yeah.
So that's the motion, and I'm sorry, any other comments? Motion on the table, any second?
Is there, before you write that letter, is there anything else on that lot that needs to be taken care of? Because if he's out of state, out of mind, you might wanna take a quick look and.
I
make sure
didn't see anything else in my walk, but I don't peer over people's walls. It was simply because it was over the wall and leaning
Right.
on the wall.
Right.
From a
And the
technical
painter
standpoint,
pointed it out too.
would it be possible to get these trees removed while we fix all the other trees? Perhaps that would help defer costs.
Yeah, if we're getting a bid, maybe.
It's gonna be at least 4 weeks worth of maintenance, so I'm sure we can, yeah.
Yep,
Good job.
that's totally smart. Perfect. And maybe even give them just like get a number from them, and when you send a letter to that guy, include that this is our bid for it, you don't get it dealt with, this is what you're gonna get assessed.
Assessment's gonna be,
Just so he's got the heads up.
good idea.
Okay, so we've got a second, and we had an abstain. I'm sorry, I have the motion on the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Well, Damon gets that second, just make sure we know that.
All right.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No opposed, okay. Next one is a painting update. Have we gotten any bids yet on the painting for the view fencing?
So let me just add one thing.
Please.
So we did the walk around, John, thanks for your help, I appreciate it. We walked the whole community, we found, what was it, 67 issues, 47 issues? We gave that all to Jose. I think there's still a couple of them that aren't done, and so I'll point those out again, I guess. So I had a couple of folks email me about stuff and said, hey, I thought you fixed this.
Yeah.
And so we'll go back to Jose with those things.
And not to overload you guys, but once again, people in the community, if we had a bucket somewhere at PRM,
Well,
people could email, you know,
You can email us
just to
if
point
you
stuff
can
out, you know,
yeah,
like
if, just email Paul,
Just
because that's what I'm gonna
email
do.
Perfect.
Thank you.
He's
Welcome to the flood of emails.
He's local in the neighborhood, so we should be able to get him.
We're gonna talk about the benches and the garbage
Yes,
cans?
Yes.
I interrupted that.
So we're going on view fencing right now.
Right now, we're on view fencing, and this will be an update as well. But I guess the question is, have we gotten any bids? I think the most logical way to do this. I'm sorry, what?
We've skipped it all.
Events.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll come back to that.
We'll come back.
We have X number of feet, yard, linear feet, whatever they're gonna measure our view fencing. We know exactly how many feet there are, or we can get that count for a quote. And whoever's coming out to give us the quote for this is going to say, house X is 30 feet wide, 20, this is how many feet it is. House Y is X, Y, and Z. They're gonna have to put their bid together that way in order for them to give a qualified bid for how much it's going to cost to do. It's not gonna be difficult to figure out homeowner X, 50% of this is yours. So, I guess I'm just wondering, have we gotten anything, what's the status? Have we gone with any paint companies yet?
No.
I
I
did
thought we
speak
asked
with,
you.
well, I
Yeah.
did ask Primo.
Okay.
Because obviously he wants to continue to work, and he said what he would do, and he's waiting till he finished the punch list, he would actually go physically and measure every single view fence.
Yep.
And make a
I think
list.
that's what's required.
And he said he's willing to do it, he's happy to do it, because he knows he has to do it for the work. But he warned us that maybe other people wouldn't physically measure it, maybe they would just try to guess it from a GPS.
Right.
So that's sort of his sale pitch, is I'm gonna put in some time and do it, but hopefully you'll consider me favorably because I'm willing to do that.
And some of it's blocked by the dry overgrown
Yeah.
bush.
Yeah, so we
Well,
gotta-
that's why
we
it's
gotta
got to
work
be
this
done
out.
on our side as
It
well.
has to be done first.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
And I think this needs to also be done in conjunction with the homeowner, because the homeowner may say, you got the paint color, you're already out there in that, would you mind doing the other side if we pay you ourselves? So this all really needs to be kind of a coordinated event. It's gonna look like utter crap if I'm the homeowner and I've got the exterior facing the pathway or whatever, looking beautiful, and the side poles and the back poles aren't done correctly. It's gonna look shoddy.
So our intent is to paint inside and exterior and do a assessment to the homeowner per linear foot.
So we want to do both.
Half and
Yeah.
half.
Okay.
I think so, because it's,
I think that's
if
the real-
not.
It's
it
gotta
falls
be, or
apart.
else it's gonna look like, good, okay, I just wanna make sure that that's coordinated.
I just wanna add this, for my own house, I have a hedge along my whole view fence. There's not visible to me. So to hold me accountable, am I cutting down my hedge and respraying that fence? Or am I
That's
saying it's not a visual, effect to me whatsoever, as long as the fence is maintained, you spray the outside, I don't care if you spray my hedge, we'll clean it up, but do I need to cut down thousands of dollars of hedging?
I think we gotta get
So
an
that you
opinion
can
from the
paint the
painter
fence.
on how they would do the work.
And they're gonna come back and say, this house has an impingement, this one does, or impediment, this one does.
So I'll just give you my experience in my last neighborhood living over there. I lived in, West Wing. They said anything growing on the fence, they would remove it and paint it, and that's what it was. And that's what they did. They removed
Define remove.
they removed any shrubbery, anything on, cut it down, and we got billed for it.
Well, this is
So-
my concern.
So we can talk about how to do that.
Yeah, we won't proceed until we do.
To his point, he says he doesn't care if the vegetation on his side gets sprayed. Some people may. So I think that you make sure that that language has.
affect your plants.
The contract has some language that they're required to protect, so when they're out bidding it, they need to assess what the
What they're gonna need
conditions
to
are
put
on
a
the other
board
side
on
of
and
the
what they
fence.
are.
Right.
Yeah.
The appropriate measures to paint that or to protect that.
Because I mean, if the painter has to protect the plants, and he's gotta go through a process of putting a board there to spray.
I can tarp them, that's not the
Yeah.
concern, it's just the
Well,
language.
they'll
of how you
have
write
to
it.
make sure they did that.
So are they physically touching the fence, or?
Oh, yeah,
are
they're
they-
setting up against the fence at this point.
But there's room to put a barrier.
I could slide a tarp in there, if it's a visual thing, that's fine,
That'd be
the
easy.
integrity of the fence is there. I don't want it rusting clearly, I don't want to have any
Yeah,
degradation
that
of
would
the
be the
fence,
only
but to
concern.
say just generally, we're gonna come by, cut down all your hedges, spray everything because we're going through the neighborhood.
Well, I'm gonna propose then that we get some bids on this, as we're clearing away the 5-foot, 15-foot clearance. And then they'll be able to give us a better assessment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll table this motion. The item that I passed up on, I apologize, was the establishing of an events committee. We've heard from a lot of people that we should have community events. We should have, we've talked about, potentially going out and getting bids, multiple bids on certain contracts and so on. Having a committee that's going to look at different facets of the community. Patrick, you wanna fill in any?
Yeah, so not much movement since our last meeting because of the focus on the landscaping, but that's still, that's, as we discussed, it's not a committee that needs a board member to chair it, although there's folks on the board, myself, Damon, that I think are interested in seeing what we can continue to do. So, I think, Damon, I don't know how you feel, but in terms of the events committee, I think there's an opportunity as we go into the fall to solicit interested folks that may want to just help plan and look at what are the things that the community would want. What are some things that may be aligned to whatever it may be, the holiday season or whatever that's inclusive with it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely on that. One of my main focuses or purposes originally when I got on the board was to do community events. I've been a firefighter for 18 years. I live and breathe and would die for a community, literally. That's what I've done for a long, long time, so I love community. In the past, there hasn't been a whole lot of community in Cibola Vista. There's probably little patches and stuff like that, and I understand that. But I would really like to see, just to have some events. It doesn't have to be a ton a year. Like you said, seasonal. You know, when fall comes around, football season, we could do whatever. We could do a tailgate, barbecue style, you know, event or whatever in a cul-de-sac or however it goes, or in the grass or whatever. When Christmas comes around or whatever comes around, you know, maybe we do who has the best lights in the neighborhood type deal. Or, you know, there's a lot of neighborhoods that do that stuff. I just feel that we need stuff like that. I really do. But that's my opinion.
No, I think a lot of people are in that same boat. I totally concur. Get out, meet your neighbors.
Yeah. You know, we all live in different little parcels and things like that, and I just like to get everybody.
Given timing, you know, the time of the room and so on, if I could ask that anyone who's interested in being part of what we're calling an events committee, contact PRM. I was gonna propose giving my email up, and I sat back and thought again about it. I'm already getting anonymous letters to my employer and anonymous emails, and I don't need any more. If you could just contact PRM and let them know you're interested, we'll pull that all together and we'll start a committee. And we don't have to wait till the next meeting. We can actually begin organizing that ahead of time.
Patrick, is there anything else you want to?
No, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, all right, very cool.
Okay, new business. I'd like to make a motion, if we could get a motion to approve the expenditures for the meeting room today. Just so everyone is clear, we want to make sure that everyone is aware of that this is a meeting that was not planned back in the original schedule of meetings. And I want to make sure that I'm not acting unilaterally, even though I do send out messages and emails before we do it. I just like to make sure that everyone knows. Do I get a second?
Can we get a discount for the use?
Yes,
of
yeah,
the
I was gonna say, they are
Well,
very
I
small
will
room.
contact them.
Serious.
Thank you.
It's a small room too.
It's like, yeah.
Getting rid of that.
Sorry. Yeah, small room.
So all those in favor of that?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
What was the cost of the meeting?
Sweating out calories.